I'm Charles Aite. To our first story, take some tough measures now to restructure the country's rising debt. That's a warning from the International Monetary Fund to government. It follows a new assessment of Ghana's debt position, which raised some red flags. George Riafi has the details.
The IMF maintained that government must move now with some policy measures to help bring the debt situation under control. There are also suggestions that Ghana may now have to look at some debt forgiveness from its creditors. Joy Business is learning that these are some of the issues that topped discussions during closed-door meetings between government and officials of the IMF during the spring meetings in Washington, D.C., USA. These concerns of the IMF have been influenced by what they describe as not so good revenue position and whether government has got the space to raise the required funds to reduce the debts. The IMF appears not to be that convinced about the proposed revenue measures that government is working on. However, government officials have argued that the recent expansion of the economy by 5.4% for last year may bring the debt situation to levels that can be described as not so worrying. This is because they also argued that going ahead with these debt reprofiling programs and other initiatives that would help bring the situation under control. Ghana's debt stock in December 2001 stood at 351.8 billion Ghana cedis. However, government has revised its share of GDP to 76% from the initial 80%.
Now, the rate of depreciation of the cedi to the US dollar has slowed down considerably, but the rapid fall in the first quarter of this year has still kept the local currency as one of the worst performing currencies in Africa so far this year. The cedi declined in value by about 19% to the dollar in the first 4 months of this year. That's according to Bloomberg, but less than 1% in the month of April. Charles Nixon-Yeboah looks at the League of African Currencies and their performance and has come through with this report.
The local currency responded positively to the policy actions by the Bank of Ghana and the fiscal measures by the finance minister, slowing down significantly its rate of depreciation in the month of April. It depreciated by less than 1% in value after going down by about 18.21% in the first quarter of this year. Demand for the dollar after the announcement of the policy actions fell drastically, while some foreign investors repose confidence in the economy. Some research institutions, including Fitch Solutions, had also projected that the cedi will record some modest gains in the coming months. This is as a result of the expected improved fiscal economy. Meanwhile, the cedi was ranked 22nd and bottom among the League of African performing currencies in the first 4 months of this year. The Egyptian pound was 21st, with a rate of depreciation of 15.10% to the dollar. Guinea's franc is the best performing currency on the continent so far this year, with an appreciation of 5.36% to the dollar.
And we'll see how the cedi performs in the subsequent months to come. But you're still watching the marketplace. It's day 4 of E-levy's implementation, and already there are mixed feelings about the tax handle, from wrongful deductions to concerns of double taxation. But in all these, businesses that heavily rely on mobile money transactions are anxious about the impact of the E-levy on the cost of doing business in the country. Helping us discuss is CEO of the Chamber of Entrepreneurs, SHERIF GHALI, as well as the country coordinator of CARTS International, Kusi Apia Dumako. I want to start off with you, Sheriff. Grateful that you could join us. It's almost a week since the E-levy implementation. What are entrepreneurs telling you regarding their concerns?
It's difficult to find body armor and
Hello, Sheriff.
Hi. Yes. Charles, can you hear me?
You're loud and clear. You're loud and clear. I want to find out from you the concerns that entrepreneurs have, run by you regarding the implementation of the E-levy. We're almost a week into its implementation.
All right, Charles, thank you very much. Like I said earlier on, happy Eid. Though you didn't celebrate the Eid, but I did anyway. So, Charles, straight to your question, generally it has slowed down electronic transaction. I can tell you that by authority, thereby affecting all those that rely so much on e-transaction for their businesses. even they themselves, the entrepreneurs, when you ask them, they say, no, I want to wait and see. Because the problem is that I think some of them foresaw that there would be problems in the implementation or the initial stages. So they don't even want to make that mistake to be overcharged and all those things. So it has literally made the e-transaction environment very, very slow. Entrepreneurs are not even willing to receive electronic because they know they'll be pay extra charges. And one surprising thing people haven't realized is that people are even started increasing their prices. I engaged some of the entrepreneurs and they were telling me that, hey, I've even increased because I need to take care of the taxes that I'm going to incur. And the buyers and customers too are now they will tell you that no. If not cash, I don't think I will be willing to pay mobile money to be extra charge or just a way that they don't get the tax. They don't get taxed. So it has generally slowed the e-transaction environment for entrepreneurs, and they are finding ways of means of being able to get over it. Others are gonna make their prices a bit high so that they can take care of the tax. So there are so many things happening right now. And I think one of the other things they also raised was the overcharges that they are experiencing, and especially, making a transaction below 100 cedis that has to be charged, and others being double charged on taxes, or let me say the calculation doesn't really fit into the 1.5 as it's supposed to be. So, and in as much as we know that especially the 100 cedi charges were those that are off-net transactions like MTN to MTN, and we say Vodafone to other network. But that notwithstanding, I think it's also something that has really put a lot of fear into people. As I speak to you now, there are some people that have not attempted even one transaction because of what they have seen people reporting. So it's when you ask, they say, no, it's no go area for now. So I think that government should, as a matter of agency, quickly work on this. Get those that have been overcharged or double charged remitted as soon as possible to restore their confidence. And aside that, one thing I'm a bit disappointed is that, government said that the common platform is not working yet, or they have issues. So the telcos are supposed to be doing deductions, and the telcos have this experience in doing these deductions for a very long time, even when we have the off-net transaction system in place. So why are we having issues with E-levy, double, that mistake or double charges and all those things? So one would associate this to the early implementation, which for me, I don't think should be the excuse.
Great.
Where systems works, you realize that they would have done a lot of prototyping. They should have done a lot of transactions on their platforms to ascertain some of these challenges. But what this is posing is that we don't see it. We might think that, let's excuse ourselves, is the early implementation. But you see, people are now becoming afraid. And some people are there, it will take them months.
Yes.
Because they want to see people come to tell them that now things are okay before they transact.
Indeed, and of course, the deputy finance minister, Dr. John Kumar, made claim to this, the fact that we're going to be experiencing a contrition rate in the passage of the E-levy in its initial stages. But, Sheriff, we've engaged with the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association. They are also a very large base of informal sector, workers. And they're also raising concerns about double taxation. How does this relate to entrepreneurs?
So, we are mostly in the arena of facilitating transactions. If not, we're doing merchants or we're enabling business transactions. So at the end of the day, an entrepreneur can do transaction more than a normal person. Maybe a day you does 100 to a loved one. But for us, you buy, you sell. So mostly it's in and out. So it is related to us because I can say we actively participate in the electronic transaction arena, and that's why entrepreneurs are crying, because if that mistake should continue, it means double charges will be happening and all. It will never be good for businesses. And like I told you, that the worst thing we can or we should be praying against is that these entrepreneurs are planning to increase their prices. I'm telling you. And, if we do that, you can imagine that the already hardship we are facing is going to be a big issue. So it should be worked on as soon as possible. Nobody cannot say that entrepreneurs shouldn't complain, because we actually does transaction more than anybody. We buy, we sell.
Great.
So Mostly, I can tell you that 80% of our transaction has become electronic because most of our clients are not with us. Most of our suppliers are not with us. You need to do transfer. You can't travel all the way to Wa or Kumasi to buy your share butter. You need to do transfer. So yes, it is really, really something that needs to be looked at. Yep.
Sherif, thank you for joining us. Let's now break in. Apia Dumako, he is with CATS International. You've heard SHERIF GHALI, the Chamber of Entrepreneurs, raise concerns from the perspective of the entrepreneur. How does this, affect our positioning, in the face of the Continental Free Trade Agreement area, in terms of competitiveness and the cost of doing business?
I think the E-levy will invariably increase the cost of doing business. That one, we all know about it. But on the other side also, government needs resources to be able to balance the budget so that there can be rules in the country, say that when trucks from Togo, Lomé is moving to Abidjan, they will be able to find a good road to apply on it. And so in one end, you are getting good rules, and one end you are having to pay for it. Of course, it's going to increase cost of doing business, but then in the long run also, if the resources from E-levy is utilized judiciously, I think that we can also see the positive side of E-levy.
From the perspective of CATS International, what specific, positioning must government take? As you rightly stated, is the E-levy is really going to be felt positively if we see the outcome of its use in developmental processes. But when it comes to business regulation, the business environment, attracting investors, how can government reposition itself to ensure that, the attractiveness isn't, affected by this particular levy?
I think government can showcase the strength of this economy and not allow the E-levy to take away the shine of it. There are a lot of things that good in this country that we can clinch on and do not allow the E-levy to take the glory of the country. As I said, taxes is the subscription that we pay to live in a civilized society. So as a people, even when investors are coming in their country, they pay taxes, just that they don't pay anything like E-levy. And I think that E-levy should not be a permanent tax handle in this country. I think that government within the next 2 or 3 or 3 years should look at other sources of taxes that are more at individual level, that will not result in a double taxation, but tax that the rich should pay more than the poor. And so government should give itself 3 years, E-levy will go. By that time, maybe we are making decent income from property taxes and other loopholes in the tax system. And that should be, that is more of my recommendation to the government.
Great. Peter Marco, grateful that you could join us as always with your submission on development affecting our economy today, discussing matters of the E-levy. Of course, you're still watching The Marketplace. Let's now shift our attention to the extractives industry because the Ghana Mine Workers Union says it will resort to an industrial action if temporary employment of its members persists. According to the union, the practice is causing declining incomes and job insecurities in the mining industry. Speaking to Joy Business at the union's 2022 May Day Funfair, which sought to honor some industry players, the General Secretary Abdul Mumin Bana said his outfit will stop at nothing to change the narrative to ensure permanent employment of its members.
We are also aggressively considering looking at how we can cause or ensure labor law reform. And as you are aware, the Labor Act 651 is currently undergoing some review, albeit snail-paced. But what we are determined to do as Ghana Mine Workers Union and by extension organized labor of this country is to ensure that we quicken the pace and to ensure that we are able to bring about the needed reforms that would also guarantee to a very large extent employment protection in this country. One thing that you must remember is that the spate of, or the increasing spate of non-standard forms of employment is not only the preserve, or it's not only akin or associated with the mining sector alone. It's actually a gradual feature that is becoming a part and parcel of our labor market in this country. And it's important that as organized labor, we marshal all the strength and all the forces that we need to be able to wrestle this matter, because it is about survival. If we don't deal with this cancer now, the future will be a major worry for all of us. So labor law reform is important. But it's also important that collective action becomes an alternative. And like I said, organized labor, one of our key values is collective action, where we engage, where we use law and it doesn't appear to work out the way we expect it to. We must deploy the appropriate tools and strategies, which include collective action. And so whatever we can do to change this narrative and to ensure that the deterioration in terms and conditions of employment in the mining sector and by extension the entire economy is halted, we must do so as quickly as possible.
Well, meanwhile, the Vice President and Managing Director of Golden Star Resources, Shadrach Ajejesoa, one of the industry players who was honored at the Mine Workers Union's 2022 May Day Funfair, called for collaboration between employers in the mining sector and the union to promote the welfare of workers.
It all depends on the collaboration between the employer and then the union. I believe in the concept of a win-win situation, and then where you'll be able to clearly define the rights of the union and then the privileges of the union. Most often than not, we do misconstrued privileges to be right. But again, you also always have to ensure that there's fairness in the distribution of whatever income that arises from the work. Okay? So you need to be fair to the workers, you need to motivate them, you need to recognize them, and then you need to make sure that they are safe. In whatever form that they come to work, they will return in that same form to their families. I'm not quite surprised with this honor that was bestowed onto me today. The point is, I've had a very long-lasting relationship with the union. At times, it becomes very difficult for you to know where exactly you stand, whether at the side of management or at the side of the union. But again, as I said, my principle is there should be a win-win situation when there is a deadlock. Okay? So you just need to collaborate and then find a middle term that the two of you can agree on. And that has been a relationship between myself and then the union.
Now to the tourism industry. The Deputy Minister of Tourism, Mark Okoye-Kumante, has expressed optimism of meeting the ministry's revenue target with the launch of the Destination Ghana campaign. This campaign, which was a global drive to woo investors to Ghana through the country's tourist site, was launched by President Akufo-Addo in London and the UK. And in an interview with Joy Business at the 5th Ghana Business Leaders Excellence Awards, Mr. Okoye-Kumante said the campaign sought to widen the scope of potential investors.
Was better than 2019 because in the last year it was erratic. Occasionally came across to us like as if COVID was gone, and then it comes up. But this year we can assure you that now that President Akufo-Addo is saying that it is not mandatory to wear a mask, I think it's not just Ghana, it's become flexible a bit. We can assure you that with Destination Ghana launched, we are expecting a bigger boom by end of year. This target, it means that we need to work extra hard, and that is why President Akufo-Addo has launched Destination Ghana. The agenda is that we promoted year of return in the Caribbean and the USA. We did not do UK and then Euro and the peripherals. And so President Akufo-Addo decided that, okay, let's go launch this fall, so that when we have the Americans and the diasporans from South America or the Caribbean coming, now we can increase the numbers with the European markets as well. And that is why President went to launch Destination Ghana, all to be able to meet our targets.
Now, fishermen at the Nungwa London Beach are pushing for a change in the fishing season's end date and the month. They believe that the current economic situation and growing cost of goods will have a significant impact on their lives. My colleague James Eshen visited the fishing community and has come through with this special feature.
In the last few days, there has been a lot of concern with respect to the closure of the fishing season this year. We are here at the Nungwa Landing Beach to speak to these fisher folk to know what's really the problem with the closure of the fishing season. The government nationwide restricted fishing season, which began in 2019, appears to have had a favorable influence on harvest. The goal is to rebuild the depleted fish stocks. Some anglers are dissatisfied with the date of the season's end. With only a few weeks until the start of this year's nationwide closed fishing season, some fishermen are requesting a date modification. Francis, who has worked in the fishing industry for over 40 years, explains that while the season is closed, foreign trawlers are allowed to fish. Foreign nationals, he claims, kill the fish with their fishing methods. He considers it as distressing and he believes it undermines the closure's purpose. We would be glad if authorities close the sea in May and opens it in June for us. You still find trawlers on shore during the closure of the sea. How will they deal with the trawler operators? What information will be given to the trawler operators? They kill all the fishes with their method of fishing before the sea is opened. This is very disturbing and it takes away the motive behind the closure. Authorities must close the sea to both local fisherfolk and the foreigners. Secondly, during the closure, life becomes very difficult. With the current economic situation wreaking havoc on all enterprises, Joyce, a long-time angler, says life has become miserable for them. She said that after the closure last year, many of the children in the community were involved in a variety of vices.
We are suffering. After the closure of the sea last year, many of the youth in the community resorted to stealing. Fishing is our source of livelihood. That is what we use to educate our children. I go fishing myself, and I have 3 children. All of them go fishing as well. The timelines for the closure this year will greatly affect us as compared to the previous years. So we are pleading with the authorities to reconsider their decision.
But he believes that changing the date will help them do more. He noted that the month for the closure in 2020 was fine for them, but that of last year and this year's July to August month will have a negative influence on their business and livelihoods due to the hardship. We are hungry. The situation is worrying. The May-August closure will not be favorable at all. Fishing is our only source of income. The timeline for last 2 years was okay. To be frank with you, we were happy. Many of these fishermen have entreated their leaders to speak with the ministries about their mounting fears with respect to the closure, but it appears that these efforts have been ineffective. Looking around, this clearly tells you what these fisher folk go through on a daily basis. I earlier engaged them and I was being told that last year's closure, that was within the months of July to August, was not the best. As fisher folk, they prefer the month of April and May. For Joy Business, James Eshen.
And of course, in response to this report, the Ministry of Fisheries and Agriculture will be joining us tomorrow for an exclusive interview regarding the state of the closed season and the livelihood for the fisher folk, not just at Nungua, but across the coastal beaches. So please stay tuned for that tomorrow at 1 p.m. But that's how we end the marketplace. I'm Charles Aite. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. Many thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of our programs.